Where is the real history of our people? And so he began a personal search for the African and the African history. And that led him to reach out in the African world, in the Caribbean, Panama, Costa Rica, other places. And then eventually he heard of this awakening that was taking place in Africa, among African peoples in the USA, in the United States of America. And the person who was highlighted in this awakening was our renowned Booker T. Washington, who became the founder of Tuskegee Institute, and which is now Tuskegee University. And he became a special, powerful leader in a time when it was difficult. 1900 is when he begins to emerge, but 1900 is also when white supremacy triumphs everywhere on the globe. And so he was emerging at the time that the powerful money people, the Andrew Carnegies, the Rockefellers, and the others were putting their power nexus together, and their power nexus was to control the world. They controlled countries. They controlled whole significant areas like the Congo. They put together their great corporations, U.S. Steel and Standard Oil, and these powerful entities at the turn of 1900, at the turn of the century, they could buy the Congress. We think that the Congress is being influenced now by rich folks, but the prototype of controlling the Congress was the Rockefellers, the Jay Goulds, the J.P. Morgans, the Andrew Carnegies, who had Congress people in their pocket. And so it was against this triumph of white supremacy, where the last black Congressman White, in 1901, was pushed out of the Congress. So we had no black congressmen. At one point we had 22. But so it was against this attack by white supremacy and its triumph that Booker T. Washington emerged. And then in the next decade, Garvey is looking for partners. And so he moves to come to America to join Booker T. Washington. And that is around 1915, 1916, where Booker T. Dies at that time, or is killed. And so, but Garvey still comes to America to link up with the brothers and sisters here. And is that linkage of this consciousness from the Caribbean with the force that was growing in black America that became the basis for modern pan-africanism. And so Garvey has a long history of relating to the larger struggle of black people to restore their humanity. And his contribution is so fundamental because he structured an institution that had layers and layers and levels. It became a system of upliftment for black folk. It fitted into the black American context better than anywhere else because we had a structured society that had institutions, organizations, that once they saw the need to come together in a more global way, Garvey was able to tap into that. And all over black America, there were Garvey organizations that developed. Why? Because we already had the church organizations. We already had the social organizations. We already had the fraternal organizations. My grandfather was born with one foot just out of slavery. As he grew up, he became a Masonic leader. He became a farmer. He became a leader of his community. He helped to build a schoolhouse that's still there on our land in Georgia, in which generations of our folks went to a 3-room schoolhouse. They recruited a very powerful teacher from Atlanta, and those generations of my relatives, my aunts and great-aunts and uncles, they went to that 3-room schoolhouse and then went on to college and went on to great things. So that's what Garvey was able to tap into, the organizational strength of black America. How did we get the consciousness to build after enslavement? That's something that we need to explain. But we went into institution building. We went into restoring our families. We went into taking land. We went into establishing co-ops. We went into getting skills for our people. Booker T. Washington said, put your buckets down where you are and master your world and build institutions. And we had done that. That's the history of my family coming out of Virginia, my mother's side, my family coming out of Georgia. And that was the norm, the black people trying to get it together. So Garvey added a international dimension, coming from Jamaica and having traveled to South America and Central America, and he was able to structure with the Black American institutional framework, making its contribution the most powerful, multi-layered system of giving life to black people at every level. He organized the economics of the black folk. They organized the political structure. They organized the cultural structure. They had Black Cross nurses. They had even a military component. They had a religious component. They had the publication of the magazine. And so we need to understand the Garvey movement in its fullness, because that type of structure that he tapped into is still there for us to tap into now. So we have to say, how can we become the pan-Africanists that our great people envisioned? There were those before Garvey who had envisioned us coming together as a global people, and some of those came from the Caribbean, some of those came from Black America, some of those even came from the African populations in Europe. And so there was, out of Africa, this consciousness of finding a pan-African formula. And so you had the Martin Delaney's and others who actually went to Africa, even before Garvey was born, to try to find a place, In Search of a Place is one of the books that Martin Delaney, who became a medical professional, a doctor, and he was looking for establishing a return to Africa, negotiating with African chiefs. And, of course, you had the whole movement into Liberia and to Sierra Leone, and that laid the foundation for what we refer to as Garveyism. And the father of modern Pan-Africanism emerges at around 1900. Just when the Europeans were putting their powerful system together, black folk began to have Pan-African Congresses. And the Pan-African Congresses connected with the work of W.E.B. Du Bois and others, and then they connected with the Garvey movement to create this awakening of African peoples that we are benefiting from even today. Marcus Garvey's two sons, he had two wives, both of them named Amy.
Yes.
And from one of the wives came two sons. The elder one, Marcus Garvey Jr., very close personal friend of mine, was with me at City College. He graduated with a degree in physics or one of the specialty areas there, and then he taught there. He lived 6 blocks from me for 20 or 30 years in Teaneck, New Jersey. He's now down in Florida dealing with the elder challenges that elder folks have. His beautiful wife, Jean, is there helping him over that challenge. And then his younger brother, Dr. Julius Garvey, is a medical doctor, and he's traveled with me and others to Africa, putting in place a new formula for Pan-Africanism. He's working with the president of Senegal with that independence or that African Renaissance monument concept. He's working with people in Uganda and at the same time working with people in the Caribbean to continue the Garvey legacy. So our challenge is to know Garvey, but then to learn to live Garveyism and Pan-Africanism in its various forms. And when Professor Small, my partner, and others got together a few years ago, and we had this opportunity to purchase a hotel complex in Ghana, we did it with the understanding of this Pan-Africanism that comes out of the black communities in America and the Caribbean and South America and Central America, and from our conscious people in Europe. And so when we bought the hotel, it was not just a business adventure. It was deeper than that. We were trying to do what Marcus Garvey never had a chance to do, actually go to the continent and lay foundations on the continent and link it up with the emerging African consciousness that's producing the new states and the new institutions and the new movements. And so this type of consciousness that goes way back to black people in the American Revolution, who were some of the first who went back to Africa, and then who blacks before and after the Civil War went back to Africa from the U.S. And so that process of linking back Sankofa